Hello and welcome to my scripting uh, little challenge that I made for myself. What it is I'm basically making a D&D style skill checks, skills modifying type of game. Here I'm in the simple third person template, just something really quick to show, just nothing too crazy. However, there is a lot of background calculations that are going on whenever I hit the inputs. So let's first get right into it. So in the third person character, we have the everything is native. The only thing I added was a couple of widget stuff, just something I wanted to experiment for myself. This is an older project. And then what I did was I have something called the player stats blueprint component, actor component. In this actor component, we have the basic test skill check. This is binded to the number two. So let's kind of just go through this and how does this all work. So first off the bat, you can see there's three inputs. We have the dice type. So this is a D4, D6, D10, D20, that type of die. If you want something more custom, like, I don't know, like a D7 maybe, or like a D52, who knows. You can always do that. So this is also really good for things that are just like gaming sets as well. So if you like a game thing, you can always try that out. Anyways, point being is that that's the first type. Second type is the skill type. So athletics, arcana, history, things like that. And third is the pass state. So it is what is the pass-fail criteria. So let's open up this function really quick and let's see what's happening here. In the function, we can see that there is a whole bunch of stuff happening. We have the first is a struct, is the player class struct that we can see here. So let's first analyze that. What is that really? It is basically the struct right here. In the structure itself, we have player class, player level, base stat proficiency. Base stats proficiency is basically you're proficient in certain stats or not. There's a bunch of rules about this, the 2/1 or the 1/1/1 rule. I did the latter, the 1/1/1, to make it easier for myself when I script this out. But there's more. Skill proficiencies, which we'll get into that in a second. That is the athletics, arcana, history, etc. The tool proficiency, lockpicks, tool disarming, things, trap, mine disarming, things like that. Game set proficiencies, are you good at card games or not? Weapon proficiency, simple, martial weapons, things like that. Armor proficiency, light, medium, heavy, shields. Spell proficiency, spell attacks, saving throws, things like that. And then language proficiency, things like celestial language or elvish, things like that. So that's in that one. So then we have to make player classes because classes have different values. So I made a player class. I have three classes for right now: rogue, paladin, and monk. They're all different. The default is rogue. That's the way I just put it down. Second is paladin, which you can see paladin has this one. Monk has monk over here. In rogue class, you have your base stats are all different. So your constitution is 14, strength is 16. This is just the rogue class I had when I played Baldur's Gate 3, I think. And then the paladin class is different. So constitution is 10. That's weirdly low. That should be a lot higher, to be honest. But monk has a higher constitution of 13. But they all have different stats, basically. And so this all kind of comes into play when you do skill checks, right? Obviously. And then obviously you have proficiency. So the monk is different, the paladin has different, and then the rogue is also a bit different. It's just the way the stats are built. I mean, anyone who's played D&D and knows the D&D IP knows that. So when we go into the player stats, so we can see these things and proficiency. So that's the class skill proficiency. So we're going to find the skill name that we want to get, which is here, intelligence. And then we're going to basically see, are they proficient or not? And we're going to find that skill set as well to get that whole skill check. So we have the test skill check. And it's just testing the skill checks. What are you trying to find? All that type of deal. All that fun stuff. And then we are going to get that one. So here we go into the whole skill check. The whole skill check basically goes into the dice skill check, which goes into the switch enum. The switch enum is basically going to say if it's critical fail, critical success, or passing. The critical success goes into this one, and the final dice roll is 1,000. It's just a big number that cannot lose. That's what I wanted it to be. I just want to make it with a Boolean. I just thought that was going to be redundant. It's just easier if I can just make a massive number. The critical fail is just critical fail. Your dice roll is going to be everything's going to be just set to 0. You're going to fail everything. And honestly, if that's even the case, if you're going to fail it, then you don't even need the numbers. You can just fail it. However, there's some more calculations that could happen, so I just decided to put its own print string, its own little thing as what it is. However, regular passing, 2 to 19 inclusive, that's where the real meat of the calculations are happening. So from the dice type, we get the dice type, which we know is a d20. We get the player level, that goes into the stat modifier. The stat modifier basically says how much is your modifier for stats. It's a simple calculation that I looked up and kind of figured out on my own. 10, your level, your stat, minus 10 divided by 2. That's the way I figured it out. So, and then we go into the proficiency bonus. Proficiency bonus, just like before, we determined if we're proficient or not in the previous function. In the test skill check, we figured that out. So then we have to figure out what happens next. So we go into the proficiency bonus, which is right here, and we do its own little calculation. The calculation is pretty simple. It's a minus 1 divided by 4 plus 2. And then if you're expert or not, which is going to be another Boolean I need to put in. I don't know exactly how I want to script that part out, but if you are expert at it, it'll be multiplied by 2. If you are proficient, that is like your basic proficiency. And then if you are proficient, it's going to be another plus 1. So a couple of math I kind of just figured out on my own. This math is highly subjective to change, by the way. Even if my math is not fully D&D IP, which I know I probably shouldn't do for copyright infringement, but it is D&D inspired, so it can be its own little thing. If I am proficient, I can do like times 1,000 really, and it would be the same thing. And then any buffs or debuffs that the player has will go right here. And then we'll add everything up together and give that to the final dice roll, and that is our output. So once you get the whole skill check done, we'll get the final output of what it is. We get the final dice roll. We go back to the whole test skill check. Remember this one right here. And then we'll take the past state, see if we're comparing it. Is it greater than, less than? What is the cases there? This can be a greater than or equal to. I'm not going to lie. I may have messed up on that one. So greater than or equal to the past state. The past state is going to be right here, and just put that over there, and we can kind of just get rid of that. And that is our new Boolean check. And then if we pass it, obviously we passed it, good job. And if you didn't, you failed. Terrible. So now that we have that done, let's go compile that really quick since we changed some stuff around. And then let's go back into the event graph. So that is where our things are. We passed the test, we passed everything else, so we're good, right? Now, we could add a Boolean. What if there is something more beyond this, where you want to test something else, or you passed it, sure, but what else do you need to do? So there's more outputs you can put into this. I can just go into here and just, press an output. Just say passed. And that is our Boolean. And so now we can go over here and just put this in. So whenever we actually get it, we can actually see if we passed or not. Now this is a fairly simple thing. I mean, I didn't do it for the sake of, it wasn't in scope for what I was doing at the moment, but we can do that really quick. And now we go to the event graph, we see that we have a passed. So if we pass it, let's say we do a victory message, something like that. We can always say that. I know, so for example, if we take like D&D games, and I'm going to take the most recent one, which is Baldur's Gate 3, one of my favorite games of all time, by the way. A little fun fact for you. When you pass things, you get a little dice roll that happens, or even a failing. It's just whenever you're rolling, a little sound effect happens. If you pass some things, a quick UI pops up, or if you fail things, they don't pop up. The message in the top left screen that happens over here somewhere, we can see those things happening, right? So if that's the case, we want to have that kind of Boolean out there. We can also pass through other types, like what is the skill type? We can also pass that through again. All of these are just things we can pass through. So with that in mind, for right now, this is something I have for now. Now, we talked about classes before. I touched up on classes before. So all these classes are different. There's default values, sure, with the rogue, and you have different classes here in the data table. And you have this enum for the dice check. So how does it all kind of come together? So how it comes together is, let's say I want to switch classes. For right now, I put on keyboard events of 3 and 4 to switch classes. So 3 gives me the paladin class, 4 gives me the rogue class. I can add a monk class, which I did on event 5. And so with all this in mind, I can now switch classes anytime I want. Now, of course, when you do this in game, probably it'll be on a character creation or if you want to multi-class and that kind of stuff. But for right now, I just, for quick, again, debugging purposes. And then so if we go into the main level, we see that there is a trigger box over here. Now this trigger box is kind of hard to see, but here it is. This trigger box here is basically going to tell us, well, we need to interact with something here. So let's open up the level blueprint because it's just simply on the level. And we see that we have a trigger box. We're going to cast the third person character because the player stats is tied to the third person character. I am thinking of putting it to the player controller instead, as the player controller is always loaded, and so we don't have to always load in the third person character and load up all their data and all that stuff, just performance. But I'm not I'm not a programmer like that. That's kind of that sort of mine's greater than myself, if you will. But we get the test skill check. We can see that we have Arcana, we have a history right here. We see past states. Now there's no default like number, and we should probably put a default number just for the sake of in case you forget. But the past state I put as 10, but I can change this around to, let's say I want to make history be 8. Maybe history is easier, and I can do that as well. And past states here can all be different. So if I go into the level and I go into this trigger box, I should get 2 messages that pop up. 2 past messages, or 1 pass, 1 fail, or 2 fails. I should get something like that. And if I go in, I get a failed and a passed. Now I failed 1, which I'm pretty sure is the Arcana, but I passed the history, which is good, I guess. And I passed the Arcana, failed the history one. So these are all really dynamic. This time I passed both of them. However, these are all really dynamic, and they all are based around the skills that you have. Now, again, these are all tied to keyboard events as well. So if I press 2, it does a quick Arcana check, I'm pretty sure. So I passed Arcana as Rogue. I failed Arcana as Rogue. Passed, failed, passed, passed, passed. Now, these are all really simple because the skill check is just 10. But let's say I change my stats around. Let's say I want to go to a monk role. Now I'm passing the Arcana checks more often. With better reciprocation than with the rogue class. Or maybe I'm failing more. But again, these are all randomly generated, so it's kind of hard, but your build will obviously have to do more with it. So this is a basic scripting that I did for a D&D-like game. I can actually go through my first initial design process with you guys. Initially, what I actually had was I had all the stats just as variables. Like I had like a variable right here that was just like, constitution, and I made that into an integer at first. And then I realized that like it's really hard for me to like do certain calculations for it. So I decided to make it a float instead. But then I realized that if I do a float, to truncate, things like that. So I decided to do like a truncate node, all these things I was doing. And then I realized that like I could just make it into a struct. And so I did. I made everything into a struct. Where I had that done. So I was like, okay, let's just go back and just delete that. Now I can just save, compile, nothing changes like that at all. So with this in mind, I basically had all these things, and then I got to the actual skills, which I actually, fun fact, I kind of noted down everything over here. I decided to take everything I could figure out. I really went into D&D's like handbooks, looked into all of them, and this is the basic calculation I got at the end. And then I have all types of proficiencies: saving throws, skills, tools, other tools, gaming sets, musical instruments. That's why I have all those categories. Weapons, armor, spells, languages, buffs, and debuffs. These 2 are spells from a book series that I wrote. We can discuss that one in another video. But for right now, this is what I had, and I thought, well, that's awesome. So then, in the meantime, again, this is really, really highly expandable. So I'm working on a saving throw at the moment. A classic get the dice check, switch on enum, switch on e-dice check. So for the critical fail, critical success, and then getting the proficiency bonus as you always want to do. And then once you have that, you can do your final check. The reason why, you might be thinking, well, dice check and getting proficiency bonus, it's happening in almost every single one, right? The whole skill check did the exact same thing where we got, dice check, proficiency bonus. Why don't just put them all together? The issue with that is I want to add more to it. Maybe there's some other things that are happening. Also, this is a huge part of it. The dice e-check switch statement has a bunch of different things attached to it. So I didn't want to go into that. I did try it at first, and I realized that there was something more I could be doing. So I didn't exactly do it like that. But this is like a basic rundown of what I did. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to showcase in this video really quick. But I think that's basically it. All the functions I went through, all these there. Gameplay tags. So at first, what I was also thinking was I had all my all my stats there, but proficiency isn't just how much; it's tied to the level, right? That's your proficiency bonus. It's just tied to your level. So then I was thinking, well, having proficiency isn't a matter of how much; it's a matter of do you have it or not. So if that's the case, then well, I could just make it into a gameplay tag, right? So I just bring this out here, do a get, and then do a has tag. And I can just look up what tag I wanted. So I can just look up in the character, skill, I have arcana, and this is where I could get the expert and proficiency, It's a lot easier for me to do expert and proficiency in this case. So I thought that was a good way to do it, but then I was like, that feels like way too convoluted. I feel like there's an easier way to do it, and maybe gameplay tags is the right way. Maybe as I continue scripting this out, I'll find that gameplay tags is better. However, for right now, it just looks like what I have is a fairly decent system, pretty modular, and that's always my goal. As a designer, I love it when things are modular, so I wanted to keep this as modular as possible. But with that in mind, that's all I got. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.